Welcome back, and thanks for joining us on episode 159 of the Clve Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the works and worlds of Clive Barker. This episode, Jose and Ryan, that's me, we talk about Marvel Epic Nightbreed comics, issues 17 through 20. These issues are about shape-shifting were-creatures, werewolves, and one guy's even a were-rat. And one of them is even written by Larry Wachowski, who went by Larry Wachowski at the time. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about issues 17, 18, 19, and 20 of Clive Barker's Nightbreed by Marvel and Epic.
That's right. And again, as usual, I'm Joe.
And I'm Ryan.
Welcome to Clve Barker's Nightbreed Epic Part 5, Episode 159. So, issue 17, right? It was written by, it's called Midnight Snack. And it's cool because some of you people who know of a little movie called The Matrix, you may recognize the name Wachowski. And this Midnight Snack story is written by Lana Wachowski of The Matrix. Let me see if I get this right. Wachowski sisters fame, Lana and Lily Wachowski.
I didn't know that. I thought it was only one of them.
No, they both are transgender now. So, yes.
But yeah,
Lana was Larry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, Lana was Larry, and Lily was the other brother that I never knew the name of.
Oh, wow. So, Larry, originally this was credited as Larry Wachowski.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
But this is a bizarre story. I mean, we'll get a little more into it, but it follows. It's kind of a one-off, right? I mean, it doesn't really have the other Nightbreed characters that we know.
Yeah, that's true.
It follows this one kind of lonely Nightbreed and his family, or like his sort of extended family that come to visit him.
That's right. He's called Ignatius. And there's kind of like a thematic connection to the next story with 3 issues that we're going to talk about, because it's like the were-beast kind of thematics, right? I mean, there's this it's not just a werewolf. No. In folklore, there's been other creatures who are were-something. I think in Malaysia, there's a were-tiger in their folklore, which I used in one of the Nightbreed stories that I submitted for...
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, not Occupy, but Midian Unmade.
Yeah.
Right, the anthology that you can find on Amazon as a book. This guy, I would call Ignatius kind of like and we're going to go into spoilers here, I guess. So
he's a were-rat.
Right. Yeah, he's kind of a were-rat, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing that bugs me is that he's got a family, right? So it's him and his mother and his brother and sister, and one of them is a were-cat, and one of them's a were-rat, and it's like, why are they, if they're brother and sister, why are they turning into different kinds of animals?
Yeah. But this is a big person. This is a big guy. Hashtag fat shaming. So this guy's a big guy, and there's one point he also appears to be blind. But the thing that defines him as any good monster is his appetite. So he's always hungry. It's
like it's kind of almost like it's about an eating disorder, right? Because he's constantly eating to try to fill this need in him that he can't quite fill, because he really wants to eat people and he can't.
Yeah.
So he's finding all these substitutes like junk food, and it gets really weird. Like he sniffs like hair that he finds in the garbage, and he wraps it in like a cigarette wrapper and smokes it. It just gets so bizarre.
At one point, he makes tea out of hair.
Yeah, right.
It's just gross. Really gross. I know. Yeah. And he actually, like, you can hear his internal monologue, which basically that's the point of the narration of the story is done from his internal monologue. Yeah. And you see him like going to the back of a salon and then picking the hair and being like, "Oh, very nice, so young.
Yeah.
She must have been growing this hair her whole life."
Yeah.
And then he makes tea, and it's really, really gross.
Yeah. And and he smokes the hair, and he finds finds the scene of a car accident, and he's licking the blood off of the ground, and so he's and he finds a finger, right, and he eats it.
Yeah, there was an accident at a factory or something, and he does find a finger, and he kind of gets all excited about it, and he does later chew on it a little bit. But I mean, one of the grossest moments here is when he's picking up the hair at the hair salon dumpster, and then he says, "They throw these pieces away, just hair, fingernails, toenails, just little bits nobody wants. Everybody gets hungry." And I'm like, toenails? Oh, God. I guess you can pretend like they're curly fries, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a little unnerving. And I don't know. It's sort of this... It's sort of I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it sort of bugs me that if somebody is this dependent on eating human flesh, why do they have laws against it?
Right. You're talking about the breed in general, yes. Yeah. Well, because it's very conspicuous when they eat people, right? They murder people, and then the naturals will hunt them down, and it'll reflect upon the rest of the tribe. But what I think is interesting is that in pretty much every werewolf story or werebeast story, there has to be some point where we discover that the lengths to which the werebeast goes to avoid actually killing people, right? Usually it's like either a vampire or a werewolf. Either they feed on animals, or they try to do something. And this guy, he's basically... He's trying to be a necrophage, right? He's trying to eat bits of people that are discarded or dead people who he kind of sneaks into a morgue to actually chew on someone, right?
Yeah, and he throws it all up because it's all like rotten and stuff.
Yeah, rotten. But there's always that kind of thing where they're trying their best not to actually kill people. And yeah, but so this guy Ignatius, he's I like the story. I really do. I did like the story, even though it's a little gross, but it's epic. So it's going to be a mature theme kind of thing. So it's not going to be just it didn't have to follow the Comics Code Authority or anything like that. So they could just go crazy with it. And and I guess Lana Wachowski wrote a story that I really like. I think it could have been a little more subtle in certain parts, but I think that it's deliberately going into places that make us uncomfortable. Yeah. Because cannibalism is a big taboo, right?
Well, and it's also this thing where the theme seems to be like, you're trying to make me into something I'm not, so I'm just going to kill myself. Which is a little bit like it's a little bit like the homophobia and what do they call that, where they try to program somebody to not be gay?
Oh yeah, aversion therapy, or stuff like that. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, some people can't accept what they are, and especially if what they are is considered abomination by the normal people, right? Yeah. Except in this case, I can't be too sympathetic, because cannibalism is not something that I'm comfortable with, and I think most people are not comfortable with cannibalism. Right. But he's a rat. He's basically a big rat, and you actually see one part where I found this was a pretty cool surprise. I thought he was blind throughout the whole story up until a certain page where we see him take off the glasses, because he walks around with a cane, right? Yeah. And he pretends like he's blind, but then you see that really his sunglasses are just meant to hide his beady black rat-like eyes. Yeah. So that was cool. I like that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So this poor guy Ignatius ends up killing himself, throws himself into a train.
Mm-hmm.
because he goes too far and he eats meat and he can't, and it's like Cabal and none of the other guys are anywhere around. So it's not like he was in immediate danger. But so it's all kind of internal, can't deal with who he is, or he went too far and he can't turn back, and I don't know.
Right. And you see that he has this anxiety inside him, and this is a struggle every day, right? I mean, when he gets into the subway train, and I can kind of relate to this page here because I'm not a big fan of going on crowded subway trains. There's something about being stuck in a subway train under the ground on rush hour, especially if it's the summer. And it's like, I don't know if when you were in Japan, you might have noticed that, right? I mean, yeah. I've heard that in Japan, sometimes they have attendants whose only job is basically just to shove people into the cars so that they can close the doors, which is insane for me. I would totally freak out. And there's one part where he's in the subway train and he can only feel all the smells and all the little noises and the little thing behind the back of his head that starts scritching away, and he just kind of has a panic attack. It's like, I need air, and he just gets off at the next station.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool. That was a cool part.
In Japan, it's not too terrible because you're typically taller than everybody else there, so you can see over all their heads.
Oh yeah.
So you don't feel quite as claustrophobic.
But I like that he's aware of what he is. He knows that he's Nightbreed. He even talks about the moon being the mother of the Nightbreed. And it apparently his mother told him he was Nightbreed, right? I mean, he's walking around downtown. I think, is this New York? I'm not sure if this is supposed to be New York. Anyway, so he says that I remember my mother warning me about the naturals. Naturals kill for pleasure. She really didn't know anything about them. And then he goes on how people are just kind and trusting. And again, part of his act of playing blind is just so he can touch people and feel the blood pumping in their veins and get their warmness. And he actually also I think he also feels like a need to reach out and touch people to get some sort of contact going, just because he feels like such an outsider.
Well, and his family, they all they all say that what he's doing is dangerous, and he's putting himself in harm's way by living in a subway station and
a messy subway station.
Yeah, you kind of get the feeling that they probably deliberately make themselves live far away from other.
Oh yeah. Like you see one of the guys. I don't know if it's supposed to be his brother or brother-in-law or something.
Yeah,
he totally disapproves. Yeah, he totally disapproves. But it's interesting that they actually layered Ignatius a little bit, and they also give him some powers. And he actually uses the powers to progress the story. Like there's one point where he is taken into the morgue because he can slow his pulse down and his heartbeat to the point where it looks like he's dead.
Yeah.
So I guess they just
like a shapeshifter thing, I guess.
Yeah, and they actually just, I guess they discover his body somewhere in an alley, and they take him to the morgue, and that's where he gets up and he's like, oh goody, he's like,
yeah, right.
He's ready to get some food, and immediately grabs a hacksaw and goes to cut a little piece out of someone. But like you said, it was rotten, so he kind of pukes it out. But wow, really, really weird story. But again, I did not see that coming here in page 22, where he's helping some guy, or he's asking for some help getting to the bathroom. And then at the last panel, instead of being a human guy, Ignatius, you just see this giant rat just occupying the entire door frame. And I was like, I did not see this one coming. I really didn't. Yeah. That was a big surprise for me.
That thing about dead meat making him throw up and stuff kind of reminded me of Interview with the Vampire. Do you remember how there was that whole part about if you drink the blood from someone who's already dead, then it could kill you because you feel their life force or whatever?
Oh yeah, the death blood.
Yeah, so
right.
That was like a big part of that movie. But then there was another part where they were drinking blood out of glasses.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, well, wouldn't that also kill them?
I guess. That's a good question. I don't know because I never read any Anne Rice books. So
I read the first one and I didn't really like it. So I just
okay. Yeah.
I used them to hold the top of the cage down for my lizard.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The only thing about this story that I thought was a little contrived was the way the Cabal appears, basically in the last couple of pages,
and in the beginning too.
Oh, he does?
Yeah, the second panel of the there, I think looks like.
Is that supposed to be him?
I don't. He's wearing like a jacket and stuff, and that's
I see.
Baphomet Cabal, right?
Oh, right. That is true.
Yeah, why is he dressed like that? It's weird.
Yeah, but so Cabal finds him in this public restroom, transformed into a giant rat, chewing on this guy, finally giving into his desires. And I think the shame of Cabal finding him like that is so big, and he just doesn't understand why is it wrong. And
why doesn't Cabal look like Baphomet? I mean, that's what he's supposed to be,
I would say that probably there's two reasons for that. One of them is probably because he can transform into that shape, and the other one is probably because he has to be human in some of these stories, just to make it more simple, I guess, for the arts to progress. Because if he was always like a 12-foot giant, it would kind of be a little hard.
Well, yeah, or this story was written with no attempt to make it to make it fit in with the rest of the. That's
true. Comics. We don't know when the story was written. It could have been way before the whole Jihad miniseries, right?
Yeah.
So another trope of werebeasts is that they have to eat to kill the pain. So.
Oh.
And here we see this giant rat saying, why Messiah? Why is it wrong? And then he says, all I need is the smallest bit just to stop the pain. And Cabal is trying to tell him, it's wrong. The moon cannot live without the sun, which is something I really don't understand what that means. But
right. Yeah, and they I don't know. It seems like these comics focus way too much on like, you better not eat humans or Cabals and Baphomet are going to get you.
That's true.
It's like that shouldn't be the focus of all of the issues of this comic.
It seems like it is the lowest hanging fruit to make a story with the Nightbreed is always that it's always that they hunger for human flesh. And
right. And it's easy to say, now there's a rogue Nightbreed, we got to go catch him.
Right. And so it turns out, and then there's someone in the letters in the letter section, breeding ground in these comic books. There's actually, I think it's either in issue 19 or something. Someone actually brings that up. It's like I would rather see more stories with the Nightbreed about creating a new Midian instead of just being Nightbreed versus Nightbreed, like the Blasphemers, or the story that we're going to get into after this one or this one. Basically, it's Cabal hunting down people, wagging his finger in their face and saying, you guys are rogue Nightbreed. We're going to get you. Yeah. Baphomet disapproves. And I really wish that they would have focused more on the whole voyage and trying to create a new Midian.
Yeah. Right.
Even the Boom Studios comics didn't do that too much. I mean, they did that at the end where they just got some sort of like house that Otis and Clay end up buying for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, at least they tried, but it was so short. They didn't really.
Yeah.
There was no time that they didn't put any time into developing that.
Right. So I'm a big fan of this one comic book, and it's not just because it's the Wachowski that wrote it, but I also like the art a little bit. I like this scratchy style of the art. It reminds me of another artist called Klaus Janson that I'm a big fan of. And in this case, it was actually Andy Paquette and Ron McCain, which I don't really recognize their names from any other comic books that I may have read.
The coloring reminds me of like coloring from like a newspaper comic, like Mary Worth, or it's a lot of pink and yellow and blue.
Mm-hmm. There's good coloring here, and another thing that's worthy of note is that Daniel Chichester's name has disappeared from the editing credits.
Oh.
So I guess at this point he might have moved on to something else. Because here, Mark McLaurin was always editing stuff like Hellraiser and Nightbreed, but the one that was being more hands-on was D.G. Chichester.
And he used to answer the letters, I think, right? I think it was Chichester.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm not sure about that, but yeah, that's probably a good guess. So yeah, I actually enjoy this one. It's kind of standalone, but I kind of liked it, even though, I felt like the story could have been a little longer. But that's just the format. It's just these 22 pages, 24 pages.
I kind of prefer that I like the stuff that moves the story forward, and there really isn't that much in this series. I mean, Jihad does. And I think, like, the next one we're going to get to in the next Nightbreed episode, number 21, looks like it's another one. I can't remember exactly, but because it has to do with Cabal and Baphomet. And there was even a letter in this issue where somebody was asking, "Hey, when are you going to bring Decker back?" And they say, "You never know where old Buttonface will rear his ugly buttons, but keep your eyes open for his return in a more horrifying form than ever."
That's right.
But I can't remember if anything happens with that.
We're going through all of them, so we're getting really close to the end. There's only 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. So that's like 5 issues.
Yeah. So we'll find out next time, but
we will find out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it's not in the ones we read today.
No, it's not. But so the next one, I have to say I really don't like the covers that they did for these.
Yeah, what is that? I mean, it's weird, right? I mean, they look like those caricatures that people do when you're on like a boardwalk or a pier, and somebody goes, "Hey, can I draw a picture with you guys?" And you're like riding a bicycle, and your head is 10 times the size of the rest of your body.
Yes, that's exactly it. Thank you. It's like Nightbreed number 11. The title on the cover is "An American Werewolf in the Heartland."
Yeah.
But is he a Nightbreed amok or something worse?
Yeah.
And oh my God, it's this weird looking giant headed werewolf holding like the skull of Kinski for some reason.
Yeah, why did that? Yeah. I mean, I guess that's pretty typical of a comic book cover to put that kind of hyperbole in the cover, because he does not kill Kinski. I don't think Kinski's even in these comics.
He's not. Yeah. He's not. But the thing that gets to me the most is really just the flatness of it. I mean, it's just seems like it was just like some graphite drawing that someone did, and there's no color to it. It's all sepia toned.
Yeah.
And black and sepia.
And that Peliquin under the Nightbreed title looks bad.
It looks bad. It looks like he doesn't have the lower part of his body. And he's just kind of like jumping.
Like he's a ghost or something.
Yeah, it's I didn't like this one. Yeah. However, once you get into the whole story, I actually am not dissatisfied with the art.
No, the art inside is amazing. That's weird, right? I mean, usually the cover art is the best, and then the inside is just okay. But here it's the opposite.
Yeah. So this was a 3-parter, right? Yeah. Called Hunters and Trophies.
Yeah. And I have to say, I mean, among these, with this story arc, I had a hard time keeping track of who were the good werewolves and who were the bad werewolves. And there was another, like, were-fox that was Peliquin's girlfriend, and it's like too many werewolves.
Yeah, that's true. This one is a little busy with the werebeasts again.
Yeah. And it was hard to remember. Their art kind of looked similar to each other, and it was hard to remember, okay, which one is killing who and who was the good one.
Yeah, especially because there were 3 werewolves, right?
Yeah.
And there's a 4th one that's being the rogue one that the breed is looking for. And then there's another werefox creature.
Yeah, that looks like a werewolf to me.
I just want to ask you about the previous comic book. You mentioned that there was a werecat in the story.
Yeah, so in the beginning they were when he's meeting with his family, right? And a cat walks up, and it says something like, "Oh, she's forgotten how to change back into her human form."
Oh, I totally missed that. Okay, yeah, I remember a white cat. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I guess I was reading that this morning.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I missed that part. That's pretty cool that you spotted that. Thanks. So yeah, going back to this one, Hunters and Trophies. Yeah, I have a page from this story, I think.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do have a page from this story. It has like one of the werewolves and there's like Pelican in the middle of the snow and there's like something going on. I forgot now exactly which page it is because I don't have it here with me.
Yeah.
It's still back in Portugal, but I do own a page of art from this story. I'm not entirely sure what issue it is, but it's cool. It opens like really nicely. There's like a werewolf and there's a big double page pin-up transformation sequence, and pretty cool stuff. I really like it.
Yeah, it looks great. That the call of where it says the call of the wild.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's the real title of this issue, not like an American werewolf in the heartland or whatever.
Yeah. And the place where this happens is the city of Stubbsville, wherever that is. Yeah, I don't. Probably someone who lives in Stubbsville is saying, "I know where that is. It's my hometown." But I think it's fictional. I'm going to say that it's fictional.
Right, but they're obviously really isolated because they're all like gathering together to talk about killing werewolves.
Right. So it's like werewolves.
30 Days of Night almost.
Yeah. I mean, so I want to ask you: do you guys already have snow over there in Fairbanks at this point?
Yeah, God, yes. I mean, I've already had to hire a plow guy twice.
Oh, Jesus! Wow. I feel really bad that I'm still going out in shorts and t-shirt at night. But I don't go very far, just to run over to the next door or whatever. But yeah. So did you notice this sequence here where you see this guy walking down Main Street and there's he drops his pipe when he finds like a dead body? Yeah. You see that second panel there where the guy is going past this corner? There's a little thing on the store that says Gaijin.
Gaijin, yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
What does that mean?
It means foreigner.
In Japanese, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that might be a reference to something, but I guess it's just something.
I didn't notice that before.
Okay. So the city of Townsville is under siege by werewolves. And the thing is... Yeah, I know. I was just making a joke.
Oh, okay.
City of Townsville. Townsville, USA, the heartland. So... the thing is, we're going to find out, again, spoilers, we're going to find out further ahead that the werewolves are not killing people in the town, even though in the beginning we definitely see a werewolf killing someone. Well, did you get that part?
Yeah, right. The blue hand right there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a werewolf, right?
That's the same. That's Eric the werewolf, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, that's what I assumed. So... yeah, anyway, so again, the thing we mentioned in the first issue is that it's Nightbreed are hunting another rogue Nightbreed. Yeah. And it's because Cabal wants to make sure there aren't any more blasphemers out there. Yeah. And I mean, of course.
And he sends these guys out instead of doing it himself.
And one of the people that is here in this panel with Pelican and Narcisse and Oral and Nick Naven is a guy they call Mexico, but that's not Mexico from Nightbreed.
No, yeah. What? I got that too. It's like, what is that guy?
I know. You never really get to see a good drawing of it. It's always like in the silhouette kind of form. Yeah. Yeah. And poor May, she is introduced in a few pages in this comic book as Pelican's love interest. She doesn't really last long. She's like one of those red shirts in the Star Trek episode.
Yeah. She's like, I'm going to go scout ahead, and then she's like instantly murdered.
Yeah, instantly murdered by a couple of werewolves, or should I say just one?
I think it's just the Eric one, right?
Yeah. But again, wow, this art, I really like it. It really works for me. It's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, except for Mexico doesn't look right at all. And
Right.
actually, Oral and Nick Naven look weird too.
Yeah, it's a little more simplified, I guess. But so the town is gathering, and there's a priest or something that's talking to his congregation, saying, we have to, I think he's trying to give him a pep talk, but they don't really let him do a pep talk. They just start talking over him and saying, "We got to go out and hunt these werewolves," and all of a sudden there's this big guy here. I'm going to call him Neon Joe Werewolf Hunter. That was actually a show on Adult Swim, by the way.
God. Yeah,
but
what is his
Sweeney?
Name? Sweeney, yeah.
He looks like Jonah G. Jameson on steroids.
Yeah. Right, and it's funny when he's riding on his snowmobile. He's got his feet sticking out in the front, and it looks like he's on a little kid's snowmobile. Yeah,
that's hilarious. That's just supposed to mean that he's really big.
Yeah.
So he reminds me of that character. Do you remember? And this, I'm sure horror fans are going to be really disappointed because I don't remember which chapter of Friday the 13th it is. But do you remember when there's this one guy who shows up, and he's this black dude with a trench coat and a hat, and he has a big knife, and he tells this town that he can hunt Jason and kill him?
Oh.
I think that's Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is what this character reminded me of, because he shows up with a big knife and says, "I can solve your werewolf problem.
Yeah.
I like knives. Guns are for pansies." And this guy is the most incredibly toxic individual you could ever see.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's racist, he's homophobic, and he at one point almost tries to rape a woman.
Yeah.
And so yeah. A little contrived, this part here where he talks about some guy says, "Haha, I bet there's an animal you haven't killed, man. Ha ha ha." And he says, "Actually, I killed this spear chucker." And off his pocket or something, he just pulls out a shrunken head.
Yeah.
I mean, does he carry that thing around with him?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Right.
It's so stupid. And then this woman just slaps him and he spits blood and nothing really happens. It's so weird. It's like this page is just ridiculous.
Yeah, right.
But then later he sees the woman and he kind of says, "Oh, let me just go talk to her. I got pheromones," brings out the beast in women, and she kind of scratches him and he's like, "Oh, okay." And then it turns out that once he starts assaulting this woman, she actually turns into the werewolf. Yeah. So she's one of them.
So he hunts her down.
At one point I even thought, I was a little confused. I thought this might be the fox, werefox lady.
Yeah,
that
she looks really similar, doesn't she?
Yeah, I was like, didn't she die like a few pages ago?
Right.
And then I realized that no, she is one of 3 werewolves, and I think I'm just going to sum up the story real quick. So the Nightbreed are trying to catch this Scottish werewolf, which is a crazy idea, because they have a little page here, a little story where you see the stylized version of a werewolf wearing a kilt.
Right, it's told in flashback, and he looks like a cute little cartoon character.
Yeah. It happens in the next episode, but just to finish this one. So basically, this guy assaulted a woman. Turns out she's one of the werewolves, and then he has to chase her down on his little snowmobile, like you said. And he's really big, so it looks like he's on a kiddie bike. But he chases her down to this cave, and he kills her. He sticks her body in like a stalactite or whatever, stalagmite. I think those are the ones that grow from the ground up. So he cuts his trophy, which is a paw, that actually doesn't turn back to a human foot after the body of the victim turns back into a human for some reason.
Yeah.
But so we see the breed are trying to visualize something remotely using fire and Nick Naven. She's throwing something in there into the fire that she says it's henbane and peyote soaked in cat semen. And I don't want to know who milked that cat, man. I really don't.
God, yeah.
So they discover that they're trying to visualize where the werewolf might be. And it turns out that there is a werewolf that just shows up behind the fire, and it's just this giant. I really enjoy the design of this big guy. I think his name is Jonathan, this big werewolf. He's really cool. He's like this snow leopard, or like he's more of a tiger, really. He's got stripes on.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really cool werewolf.
Yeah, he's the good guy werewolf, along with the female one that just got murdered.
Yeah. And that takes us to Breeding Ground. And so this Breeding Ground usually has letters talking about the previous issues and stuff. But there was this person here who says that their favorite movie was Rawhead Rex. He liked it more than Nightbreed.
Yeah, right. I know.
Which is kind of weird. He says, well, I know quite a few disagree with me, and that is fine.
Yeah.
My tastes are not exactly met easily.
Sir John Johnson.
He refers to himself as Sir. That's
right. Are you United?
Yeah. That's funny. So they were talking here that the Hellraiser 3 is going to come out and all that. So
yeah.
And let's see if there's any other worthy of talking. Oh, yeah, there's one guy from Ukraine who wrote a letter. He was talking about he's been reading the comic book. He read Cabal, and he's talking about waiting for the tapes for Hellraiser 3 to arrive at Russia so he can watch it. Yeah. That was interesting. A little letter from beyond the Iron Curtain.
Did you notice on the next page of after the letters, there's a cover for issue 21 there, and it's got Gallows holding Narcisse's head.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's like, and it's just an advertisement for the Nightbreed comics in general, but it's like that cover is pretty far ahead of where we're at right now.
It is. I guess they were just trying to tease something, like a preview. So that takes us to the next issue, right?
Yeah.
Which
also the same artist on the cover, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's also not a very cool cover. Yeah.
Yeah, Peliquin's got a huge nose right there.
Yeah. So issue 19 picks up right where the other one left off.
And it's got Peliquin fighting this, the good guy werewolf, the one that's got, like, the tiger stripes.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, like any good Marvel comic book, as soon as two characters that are slightly antagonistic meet, they have to fight. They have to duke it out, even if there's no reason for it to happen. In this case, there is. It's just Peliquin thinks that this is the werewolf that killed his girlfriend, May, because his scent was at the scene, even though he tried to prevent the other guy from killing her.
Yeah.
So they fight for a little bit, as usual.
Yeah.
And
then then they tell the story of the Scottish werewolf.
That's right, because he says that we're looking for Brian McDougall.
Yeah.
Is that the name?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Brian, right? I think just to sort of sum it up, Brian had bitten some other people, and they kind of ran together as a sort of a family. Brian got killed, but the other three are still alive, and one of them is a bad guy, right? Eric is he took to it really naturally. He just loves eating people and.
Yeah. So Brian bit three people: Leslie, Jonathan, and Eric.
Yeah. And
Leslie and Jonathan don't like human flesh, so they try to stay away from that. But Eric is unfortunately one of the werewolves that kind of gave in completely onto his animal side, to the point where after Brian, the original werewolf, tried to confront him, saying, hey, we're Nightbreed now, and you shouldn't eat people because it's against Baphomet's law. Well, then, Eric just ended up using Brian as a substitute and killed
that's right. Yeah.
The alpha werewolf, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, and at this point, Jonathan says that, Eric killed your mate to Peliquin, and I think he's also killing people. They're after him with a werewolf hunter called Benjamin Sweeney. And so Peliquin kind of does, this thing where it's like, all right, I'm going to trust you for now. So show me which was the guy who killed my mate, because, I do want some vengeance. So that's how it goes. And then, of course, we cut to another people being killed, mauled in their city. And there's these hunters talking about it. And again, they meet Sweeney, and he tells them, hey, I killed a werewolf. All right. And they say, well, someone just got killed outside. Right.
Yeah.
And then he tells them that he's really hunting for Nightbreed. And he shows them like, hey, in the cave where I killed a werewolf, there was this skull that kind of looks like a mixture between a fox skull and a human. So you guys also have Nightbreed here. And they're like, Yeah. So that's what becomes his new obsession. He wants to go and find some Nightbreed.
And then he tells the story of basically the attack
the
on
movie.
Midian,
Yeah. So after he tells them where to find the dead werewolf and the hunters leave, there's another guy who says, I heard you talk about the Nightbreed. And he's like, what are you talking about, pencil neck? And he says, I'll take him to you. I'll take you to them. And he says that he's going to take Sweeney to the Nightbreed. And stupidly, he does go. And, of course, after the other guy discovers his wife was a werewolf, he thinks that Sweeney just murdered his wife, that werewolves don't exist. Yeah. So he wants vengeance. And then we see, the Nightbreed and Jonathan are trying to find Eric. So they're walking around the town. And unfortunately, night falls, and of course, Jonathan's going to turn into a werewolf. But there's a funny scene where they're pushing Narcisse to go into a bar and ask people for directions and say, hey, do you know this guy Eric? And Peliquin tells him, hey, you're the only one of us who actually looks more natural, so go in there and ask him. And of course, there's a scene when obviously he's missing his scalp, and he says, hey, what's wrong with your head? And he takes off his hat and says, skin cancer, spent too much time in the sun. Yeah. It's an awkward moment there.
Yeah.
So anyway, of course, as soon as they come out, Narcisse forgot his hat inside the bar. And then, of course, the bartender comes out, hey, buddy, you forgot your hat. Holy shit, there's like Peliquin and a giant werewolf in the middle of Main Street. Yeah. Like, these guys don't really know how to keep it low, right?
No.
They like really don't.
Them driving that display car out, through the wall in the shopping mall in the middle of the day.
Yeah, during the Blasphemers storyline. So anyway, again, people immediately start shooting at them because that's what you do, I guess.
Yeah.
The town is always on edge, so I guess there's people walking around with open carry, so to speak. So as soon as they see them, they start shooting at him. And it appears that Peliquin has some sort of healing factor because he gets shot point blank, but he doesn't really, seems to bother him that much.
Well, I think he's like Boone.
Or like Wolverine or something. So, of course, there has to be an old-style car here because that's what they had in Nightbreed, the movie. They had so there's an old-style car that someone's driving, and Peliquin takes it and, just decides to play chicken with someone. And stupid scene here where the big werewolf says, I can't get into the car. It's not going to work. I won't fit. And Peliquin's like, you're too stupid to live. Just climb on the top.
Yeah.
Of course. So anyway, we cut back to Sweeney and the other guy, and obviously, he just wanted to get him out of the city so he could turn into a werewolf to attack him.
Yeah.
And this is Eric. It is Eric the werewolf, and it ends in an awesome, really cool shot of him turn into a werewolf. I really like the werewolf design they did for this.
Although now he's not blue. I mean, he was blue before. And
that's a good point.
Now he's brown. I mean, but he looks cool. He reminds me of the ones from The Howling, which I really like.
Oh yeah, that's a good series of movies. Yeah, I like that one too a lot. I guess the real winner or the real thing here to watch out for this comic book is the letter that this guy wrote for Breeding Ground. Wow, this letter is really long, and he really does not mince his words.
Yeah.
A letter wrote by Nicholas James Judd from Countryside, Illinois. Wow, dude. I'm not gonna say that he's a jerk or anything because I think he actually makes some good points. But I am surprised that they published this letter because he basically tells them that he liked the movie, he liked the first 4 issues of the comic book, but then when he read 5 and 6, he knew that these comics would quite frankly,
suck. My God.
Holy moly, dude. Yeah. And, I guess it worked. They published his letter. Yeah. And he does bring good points.
And their answer was basically kind of like, yeah, well, there's no accounting for taste.
Right. And it's like, this is not written by Clve Barker, it's written by someone else. So it's an interpretation, and they take the story and they go with it in different directions. Yeah. So, but yeah, like it says here, in the beginning, it was the ancient battle of Nightbreed pitted against humanity, fighting out of fear, a battle long forgotten, except in lore. Why did you have to turn breed against breed? You had 5 billion humans to fight against them, all of them having a common instinctive fear and hatred of the Nightbreed. And when you tried to bring humor into the dark world of the breed, you shattered it. Yeah. He does mention a few things like here, like... and
he also tells them not to make the Weave World comic book because they're going to screw it up and it'll be terrible.
He had a really good point there, because I have the Nightbreed 3-issue series, and frankly, it's... Yeah, Weave World, yeah. And it frankly is not, it's not really a good adaptation. There is no way that they could have adapted such a big book into just 3 comic books. Even when they turned it into 64-page comic books, it's still not enough. The artwork was a little subpar, but we'll get to that eventually, right? So, but he does not mince his words. He's like, is this what happens when writers get bored? It's like, holy moly, dude. Yeah. Yeah. So, wow. Yeah. That is quite a letter. Oh, and I discovered here also that there was another Clve Barker fan group.
Yeah, the Forbidden.
Yeah. Like another letter says, I'd also let my fellow breathers know that about a club titled The Forbidden about Clve Barker's works and what he's currently basing himself with. For more information, please write to The Forbidden for Melissa Lanning, Vice President. Yeah. In San Diego, California. This was a letter by Amber Stevens, president of The Forbidden. Yeah. So, wow, I looked it up. I tried looking up online for anything about this. I couldn't find it. So I'm going to guess this was a really short-lived thing.
Yeah, I know. It would be really cool if they have newsletters, if they had any newsletters. If there's anybody out there that was part of the Forbidden group and they had newsletters or anything you could share, send us some pictures or PDF or something. It would be really cool to see that.
Amber and Melissa, if you're listening,
yeah,
President and Vice President of the Forbidden, we'd really like to hear from you.
Yeah, I love these old fanzines. My favorite one was Dread. Yeah, Dread was my favorite of the newsletters, and it had like sometimes short stories, and they published History of the Devil in there one time.
And they also published Dog or Day of the Dog or something like that.
Yeah. And
it was a really short one.
Pete Atkins stories. It was cool. Children of Fire,
the one that talks about what happened to the DJ and the guy who turned into Camera Head.
Yeah. I'd like to collect all of them. I have a lot, but I don't have them all yet.
Yeah, same here. I think I'm missing a few, but not many. So I should get back on eBay and find out which ones I'm missing.
So Eric changes to fight Sweeney, and that's kind of a neat development in the story because you kind of hope that they kill each other.
Right. And that takes us to the last part.
Yeah.
Hunters and Trophies, Part 3.
Another terrible cover. They make Sweeney look like a gorilla or something on the cover there.
Oh, yeah. This one looks like some sort of fan art. And again, it's like you said, it's strange because if they had just hired the interior artist to make the cover, that would have been better than this.
Yeah.
I would totally be okay with that.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, just look at the splash page that opens like the second and third page of this story.
Yeah, really good.
It's really good. I think it's really amazing. That would have made a great cover right there.
Is blue again.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, we can chalk it off to either the colorist changed between issues or something.
Yeah.
And because this issue does have more than one artist.
Yeah, but it's consistent as far as I remember. I don't remember having any problems with it.
Sure.
Well, you can kind of see it, I guess, huh?
Mm-hmm. A little bit.
Yeah. What is it, like page 10? It's
yes.
supposed to look a lot different.
Yes, on page 11.
Yeah.
So Sweeney and Eric are fighting. So he's fighting a werewolf. He feels, like this is a worthy opponent for him. And he's really, into it, I guess. He doesn't want to turn into a werewolf, but he wants to bag himself a Nightbreed.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, again, we were left off at Pelican playing chicken with a couple of rednecks shooting at them. And, it does pay off. At least the story is, in terms of beats and in terms of the progression of the story, it actually is pretty good. It's not like some other issues where it seems like things happen out of nowhere. And then, Ashbury and the other guy, the sheriff, would show up and shoot everybody.
Yeah.
At least that's done with, right? They died. It's done.
Yeah.
So I like the story. In the meantime, Sweeney is busy fighting Eric, and the Nightbreed are driving towards him. And for some godforsaken reason, Jonathan feels that he owes Eric a warning. So he runs in front of the car ahead of the Nightbreed, and he goes to find Eric, and he warns him that the Nightbreed are coming. They want to kill you. And
that part doesn't make any sense, right? Because Jonathan had threatened to kill Eric.
I know, yeah.
Or no,
totally
the other way around. I mean, Eric had threatened to kill Jonathan.
Right. And it's like, doesn't make any sense.
And then they start fighting each other. It's like,
yeah,
that's what you get for trying to help him.
Yeah, because he deprived him of his meal, I guess. And then Eric kind of basically guts Jonathan and leaves him to die bleeding and freezing to death, and runs away. So Sweeney is hurt. He's hurt pretty bad. Jonathan's hurt, and the Nightbreed get there, and that's where the art changes here at page 11 or something.
Yeah,
so
bad.
Yeah.
By comparison.
In the meantime, the guy whose wife was a werewolf that Sweeney killed is still driving around the middle of the woods in a snowmobile with his two hunter buddies, and he hears the howlings, and they move towards them. And then there's another scene with Nick Naven looking at the fire.
And then Sweeney just starts raping her, right?
Yeah, Sweeney shows up saying, "Oh, I'm hurt, help, help." And they try to help him. They don't know who he is. And, of course, he just takes out a knife and like, "Ah, I got you, Nightbreed. I'm going to get you." And then he looks at Nick Naven, who at this point still has Aiello's body. And he's like, "Oh, look at you. You have an old lady face, but you got a hot body." And he just lowers his pants and goes for it.
Oh, and somebody comes up to him, right? And like some Nightbreed comes up to him and he cuts their head off.
Yeah, this lizard dude. Again, another red shirt. Doesn't really matter who he is.
Yeah.
It's some guy turns into something and he gets his head cut off. And then he threatens Nick Naven that he's going to slit her throat. And that's when she just pops out her head and throws it. Ha! You're not going to, you don't know who you're dealing with. Yeah. And, of course, Pelican grabs the head and says, "Ha! I got your trophy." Yeah. And that's when, the proverbial crap is going to hit the fan, because now it's Pelican that's going to fight Sweeney. Of course,
I do love. I mean, I don't like the art, but I love this fight because it's the way it should be, right? It's not a good fight. It's Pelican just easily, just beats the living crap out of him, breaks his bones and.
Yeah, and it's right about. He has his teeth right up to his neck, and then it's like, it's not even sporting. I'm not gonna. Yeah. This is too easy for you. I'm just gonna let you get a 5-minute head start, and then I'm going to hunt you down just like you hunt down animals and people.
Yeah,
so
it's a really kind of a
cool.
satisfying turn in this story.
Yeah. So the sun starts coming up, and of course this is going to be meaningful because Jonathan is going to turn back into human at some point. But in the meantime, we see Sweeney is running around the woods, and he steps on a bear trap, right?
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of poetic justice for Sweeney.
Yeah, that's going to reduce his mobility a bit.
Yep.
And then I didn't get this part here. Narcisse was left with Jonathan, who was hurt, and at one point the sun's coming up, and the guy whose wife was murdered and his two hunter buddies, they stop and they say, "Hey, shit, it ain't Sweeney, it's a werewolf. My God, it's Jonathan Geary." And it's like, how do they know he's Jonathan Geary? he's still transformed into a werewolf.
Yeah.
Right? And it's I don't know. It's just weird. Maybe it's just because
Jonathan Geary. Yeah, that's true.
maybe it's because the sun is coming up and he's supposed to be changing, but it's like he doesn't look anything like the character, this human alter ego at this point yet.
I think probably it's a difference between the artist and the writer.
That might be it.
Yeah, and probably the art was supposed to show that he had Jonathan's face.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. So Narcisse explains to them what's going on, and so they're like, all right, well, let's try to find the other werewolf, or let's try to find Sweeney. And then we cut back to Sweeney trying to run away from Peliquin, and then he's not only found by Peliquin, he's found by Eric as well.
Yeah.
And so there's a standoff, and, Peliquin wants to kill both Sweeney and Eric because Eric killed his girlfriend. But at the same time, it's like, well, Sweeney is also a dangerous enemy, so they're just kind of, taking their time, circling each other.
Yeah. And then there's that other guy that wants to kill Sweeney for killing his wife.
Yeah, and then everybody shows up at the same point because they're just following the howls. They're following the howls, and so let's say that helped them track each other down. Because usually, of course, it's just ridiculous that everybody meets each other in the middle of the woods. But so Eric ends up fighting Sweeney, and the guys are starting to shoot at Peliquin because they think he's a werewolf too. Yeah. And he actually ends up overpowering them and explaining that, hey, I don't have any claim to any of this. And the other guy says, "Oh, Sweeney killed my wife." And so basically, Sweeney gets bit by Eric in the background because they're still fighting in the background while everybody has their talking around, with their hands in their pockets.
Yeah, I know.
So that part is not a very good page. The focus should be on what's going on in the back. But so Eric bites Sweeney. Sweeney says, "I don't want to be a werewolf." And then he says, "Well, I'm just going to kill you." And he slashes him a bit and goes like, "Aroo," does this like victory howl. And then it's like, "Your turn, Peliquin." And it's like, "I don't think so." They fight. Of course, Peliquin ends up winning. And not just that, he actually like reaches into Eric's chest and takes out his freaking heart.
Yeah. Right?
And he has like a one-liner saying, "Something you could have no comprehension of, or even the heart for. Rip."
Yeah.
Cool one-liner there.
Yeah.
So it turns out that, Sweeney is not dead yet, even though he's kind of cut in half, and he's turning into a werewolf, and he's gurgling around, and he's like, "Oh, I'm turning into a werewolf. No." But then, of course, the guy whose wife he killed shows up with a shotgun and says, "Well, this is for my wife." Yeah. And he shoots him. So at the end, everything ends up well. Jonathan the werewolf gets his gut fixed by Nick Naven, and the Peliquin turns to Jonathan and says, "Hey, so do you want to move on from this town? Do you want to join us?" And he's like, the other hunter buddies are like, "Well, we can tell everybody the werewolves are gone, and we could sure use you as a hunting buddy."
Yeah, you'll just eat all the animals.
Right. So their idea is that a wolf could be able to track the animals for them. But then he just says, "I appreciate the thought, but I think I'll just, I don't think the rest of the town would like it, and it would be hard to explain what happened to me. And it's like, I'm just going to go." And that's it. And they just burned the bodies of the werewolves, and time to get back on the road to find the savior boy, Cabal Baphomet. And then they said that next issue, bold new direction for the Nightbreed. And you remember who was going to write those comic books?
Oh, yeah, Nicholas Vince.
Yep, that's right, the cheddar himself, Kinski. So that's cool. I liked it. I like the story. The art was a little uneven.
What they're teasing for the next issue, too, is that there's something with Baphomet where they have to kill him. And I can't remember if that's just, exaggeration. We'll find out. But
Yeah. That's another funny letter here in Breeding Ground for issue number 20. It says, "Hello, is anybody up there?" Which is a weird way to start a letter. I mean,
yeah, right. What is that supposed to mean?
And then it says, "If anyone will ever read this, please answer me within 2 weeks. If ever, here I go. I'm very disappointed with the fact that Hellraiser 3 was done without the help of Clive Barker. Are we going to see any interesting covers? Something like Terminator: The Enemy Within would be great.
Yeah.
How may I purchase any of Clive Barker's movies? The 3 Hellraiser films or Nightbreed?" He was just saying he was disappointed with
I remember
with Hellraiser 3.
Too. I'm like, who is this person? This is nuts.
And then he goes on a little rant, says, "The idea of T-shirts and posters is great, but only if they would be high quality. We wouldn't want a project like that to end due to low sales via poor quality." Okay. Right. "I love the Book of the Damned. Is it going to be released monthly?" No, that was just like a handful of issues.
Yeah, 4.
"I don't know if any of you realize how popular Clive is. Is he ever going to release his own magazine or something like it? The end. That's it. Go to sleep." Wow, that is like the weirdest letter I've ever read.
Yeah. They're like,
Mike,
we work for Marvel and Epic. We make the Nightbreed comics that Clive Barker, are based on Clive Barker's work.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to buy movies, we suggest you go to a video store.
I mean, wow, that letter is just weird, especially because it says, "The end. That's it. Go to sleep."
Yeah.
Weird. But it looks like they were posting some of the most zany letters they were getting, because I'm sure they were getting a lot. But like the other guy that was a little critical of the comic book, I understand why they posted his letter, even though he was a little, like, I wouldn't call him rude, but very honest. Yeah. And this letter is just zany. I guess they just went with it because they just laughed it up and were like, "Oh, let's put this letter in."
Yeah, right.
So yeah. Pretty cool story. I liked it. The art was a little uneven, but I think the story was solid, and I like the twist. Because obviously they mentioned that the twist in the story was that the werewolves really didn't kill anybody in the town. It was Sweeney.
Yeah, they say that, but I don't think it's true, right? I mean, Eric did kill people in the town.
And Jonathan, telling Eric's story, does mention that Eric did have a taste for people, and that he gave in to his food cravings and ended up killing people. So
maybe they're just telling the townspeople that so that they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the people that were killed by Sweeney, but not all.
I don't know if he killed anybody except for that. I mean, we didn't see him killing any humans.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't see him kill anybody. And the blue hand that slashed someone by the throat had claws. So in the first issue, so that seems like it was just Eric.
Yeah,
so
I wonder if they're just saying that so that Jonathan can live peacefully in that town.
Yeah. Well, he's not going to live there. He's going to move on with the other breed. But right. But the thing is, I wish we had a scene that was a little more, apart from the fact that we know that Sweeney is a horrible person, but there should have been something that actually showed him killing someone and putting the blame on the werewolves. Yeah. I think that would have made the story come together a little better for that twist. Because the twist just seems like, is it really? I thought it was really werewolves killing people, but
Yeah, and Sweeney just came to hunt them. I mean, he was a jerk and, a rapist, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, so horrible person all around. Yeah. But anyway, so I liked it. I liked the story, even though there were little things here and there that I thought they could have made a little better. Yeah. But, that was it.
Well, in that cover of this last issue, I mean, come on. They've got him, like, holding Peliquin by his dreadlocks and like he's about to kill him with a knife, and he's got him at his mercy. And it's like, it was not even close to like that.
Nothing like this happens in the comic book. It's totally the other way around. Yeah. It's just ridiculous. I have no idea what they were thinking with these covers, really. They were just terrible. Yeah. Terrible. They were better off just getting someone who worked on the inside to just make the cover for this issue. And
it's nice to see Peliquin get a chance to, be the kind of badass character that he is. He's kind of like the Boba Fett of Nightbreed, because he looks cool and he's got cool lines, but he doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Anyway, so I really hope that they do the second part of the Nightbreed archive that came out a couple of years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Because they stopped pretty much after Jihad, right?
Yeah, right. So what is that, 13, something like that? No.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of those lower numbers, but I think so far we've done at least 9 or 10 other issues that are not in the Nightbreed archive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad. They should finish that up. I hope they do.
I wonder if they're just not doing it because they know that the later material isn't that good, and maybe that, I don't know. But if you start the Nightbreed archive, I think you owe it to the people who buy the first volume to actually publish the second one.
Yeah.
That would be good, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't want to have to go through the bother of buying the individual issues, even though they're not that hard to find.
Especially if they bought volume 1.
Yeah. So let's see what happens. Who was putting that out? Was it Boom Studios?
Yeah, Boom Studios. I didn't like what they did with Hellraiser, the epic Hellraiser comics, where they what did they call them? The Masterpiece Collection or something like that? I forget. And they just picked random issues and collected them together, and like it was kind of like a best of.
Mm-hmm.
But those comics should be presented in order. You don't just pick out the ones you like. I don't know. I didn't like that.
It's a long series, though. It's long. It's a long series. I don't know what they're thinking about that, but I think they just went for like the cheaper approach, which is just to make a best of. And of course, that's going to include the Harrower story. Yeah. That's written by Clive Barker and it's illustrated by I forgot, Alex Ross. No, it's not Alex Ross.
Right.
Well, the Harrower story where they show up for the first time. But, so pretty solid story here. And I hope that you enjoy this podcast.
Yeah. We'll try to catch the last 5 all in our next Nightbreed issue, or next episode, because I think they're all Nicholas Vince issues after that, right? Because we know 21 is, and I think they...
I'd have to check, but I think you're right.
And then the last 4 were the ones with the newspaper clippings and stuff, or...
It's the one where they try to introduce this love interest between Shuna Sassy and Cabal that didn't really go anywhere.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I have to read them. I haven't read them in a while, so I'll have to read those, and we will discuss all 5 issues in the last episode, part 6 of the Nightbreed Epic Comics discussion.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I know.
It's going to make an attempt to kind of steer back towards an ongoing story of the arc for the whole series. It's
been a good year for Nightbreed. So we'll see where that goes.
Too.
Yeah, that's true.
And even Rawhead Rex.
4K resolution.
Yeah.
Restoration for Rawhead Rex. That was crazy.
I haven't watched my Blu-ray yet. I still have it on my shelf to watch.
Yeah. So that's something on the list for me. I need to get that one. I'm just waiting for the price to go down a little bit so I can buy it. And if you haven't, go get The Magician and History of the Devil from the Clive Barker archive.
Yes.
They're standalone play editions that Clive Barker wrote, theater plays. So go check those out.
I'm putting them on my Christmas list.
Me too. And I'm sorry if we sounded a little tired because it's just really, really late this Saturday night. And we're both doing recent jobs, and it's just taking so much time.
Yeah. It's hard to... We're trying to find a new groove now with, having work schedules. We used to record on Thursdays. And now that's not even possible anymore.
No, I mean, next week there's going to be days where I'm going to be working until 8 p.m. So we'll see how that goes. Thanksgiving.
Kind of keep playing it by ear.
Yep. So I hope everybody has a good Thanksgiving. And I guess we'll have another episode before that.
Yeah, we might record another 2.
All right, then.
Okay. And this podcast having no beginning will have no end. You can find the show notes for this episode as well as lots of news and features at www.clivebarkercast.com. Leave comments there or get them directly into the podcast by clicking the Send Voicemail tab on the right. Please follow us on Twitter at BarkerCast or at Occupy Midian. Like us on Facebook and join the Occupy Midian Facebook group. You can listen on the site or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Libsyn, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and Double Twist. Look for our apps in the iTunes Store or Google Play Store. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Please take a couple of minutes to leave us a review on iTunes. It means the world to us and helps us spread the word about Clive Barker. The Clve Barker Podcast, or BarkerCast, is an independent editorial fan site and podcast that is not affiliated with or under contract by Clive Barker or Seraphim Films. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.